course, we know that every day is a great day to be a patriot, but today, I think, is especially great. Today we have shadows, 8th graders come to our building a lot, but today we have 26 potential patriots. So we have the future, and we have the present. This afternoon, of course, we have our groundbreaking house event, the spirit competition that will go on. So alumni, this is why they're not in their uniforms, but you see them in their house shirts, and we can talk about what the house means later, but this is a groundbreaking event. So our current students have a big day today. And then, of course, we're here to honor our past patriots. I shouldn't say past patriots, because once you're a patriot, you're always a patriot. But we're here to honor and recognize these outstanding individuals who represent truly the best of Carroll graduates. And I think in listening to their stories and hearing what they've accomplished, they truly live out our mission. You know, we talk a lot about we want to give you what you need to be successful in life, but not just be successful, but to pass that on and help your communities and help the world around you. And I think you'll learn today that these individuals are that. They are extraordinary in their work and their contributions to society, and we're very, very proud to have them with us today. So I will not steal anyone's thunder by telling you about them individually. I will simply introduce our very special guest, our MC today, who is, where is he? Mr. Hofler. Freshmen and sophomores have never had the awesome experience of having Mr. Hofler in class, but he's certainly a very proud patriot and our historian of our school, if you will. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Hofler to the stage.
This is an exciting day. Gotta say that. When I was teaching, I would come to school every day and feel fortunate and blessed because I believe Carroll High School was the best place to teach. Here at Carroll, you're encouraged every day to do your best. Each of you achieve their personal best in different ways. Today, we are honoring the best of the best. There are 7 new members to be inducted into the Carroll High School Distinguished Hall of Fame. Even though I no longer teach here, I still believe Carroll is the best place to be. That's why you may see me from time to time. A little history about this Hall of Fame. In May of 2006, the Carroll High School Alumni Association decided to set up a Distinguished Hall of Fame. This was to be a prominent honor based on post-high school achievement. It was designed for graduates of at least 15 years out of high school. That makes the current seniors eligible in 2032, just around the corner. Let me say this about the Carroll graduates. Today in this building, there are over 25 Carroll graduates who are teachers or staff members and close to 40 grads coaching at least one sport. This is an important statement about this place. There is something very special in this building. People love to come back, and we are pleased to welcome back our inductees. Let me continue. There are 2 categories for consideration in the Distinguished Hall of Fame: Alumni Distinguished Patriot and Honorary Patriot. The Alumni Distinguished Patriot Award honors graduates of Carroll High School who have made a significant impact on their communities and professions in one or more of the following: academic excellence, career achievement, Christian leadership, dedicated service, heroism, humanitarian, and cultural achievement. The Honorary Patriot Award honors those who are not graduates but have had a lasting and profound effect on Carroll High School, its students and community through their commitment to Catholic education and their active involvement, leadership, and support of the school. We will have a total of 46 people in the Distinguished Hall of Fame with the induction of the current group. A plaque for each member hangs in the, I'm going to use the word junior hallway. I don't know if you still use that or not, above the lockers. You need to look at these plaques and become familiar with their names and their accomplishments of these people. They are special people, and they're your role models. The first Distinguished Hall of Fame class was inducted in 2008, the second 2009, then 2010. We took a year off for the Carroll High School 50th year celebration, the fourth class, 2012. Now we're on a rotation with the Athletic Hall of Fame, so our celebrations are done every other year, 2014, and now this year, 2016. I would like to recognize the members of the Hall of Fame committee. These people set in motion all the necessary preparations to have this event. The people on the committee are tireless workers, dedicated, fair, reasonable, and have a great love for Carroll. When I call your name, please stand. Julie Whites, class of 1984, is the Director of Alumni and Community Relations. Julie is an excellent leader and fellow worker. Jim Fleischer. He's our committee chairperson. He is not here right now, but class of 85, he did a great job as chair. The rest of the committee, Jeannie McManus, class of 1966. Susie Rosalius, class of 1966. Patricia Kretz, class of 1968. Kathy Heeb, class of 1970. Greg Notestein, class of 1971. Mary Hyder, class of 1974. Good. Our own Kathy Jackson, class of 1975. Kim Tim, class of 1986. I don't think she's here. Mark McNulty, class of 1994. Ryan Ireland, class of 2003. Mary Cullen, retired faculty member. I'm Tom Hofler. I'm a retired faculty member, and I'm loving it. Our first inductee is Joe Sens. Mr. Sens is an honorary patriot. He was at Carroll High School for 45 years, from 1966 to 2011, when he retired. Joe was a science teacher, department chair, assistant principal, and then he became principal, and he was principal for 28 years. He was voted Teacher of the Year multiple times in his early years. Mr. Sens is a true patriot. He always showed concern for students and faculty and staff. He had a vision to set high academic standards for all students by focusing on curriculum development, increasing the number of honors and AP courses, setting up study skill programs, and improving technology. He attended many sporting events and co-curricular activities. Joe Sens was a wonderful person to work for and to work with. He has always been a positive influence reflecting the values of Carroll High School. Unfortunately, Joe can't be with us this morning. He is very sorry and regrets missing this opportunity to be back at Carroll High School. Joe will be with us for the induction ceremony tomorrow night. We got to give Joe Sens a big round of applause. Dr. Cheryl Conley, class of 1969. Her ambassador is Andrea Poole. Please stand and be recognized. Cheryl received a Bachelor of Science degree from Wright State University in 1974, a master's degree in clinical laboratory sciences from the University of Dayton in 1980, and her PhD in biomedical sciences from Wright State University in 1984. Cheryl was a NASA Fellow Research Associate at the University of Louisville. She was the clinical scientist of the Community Blood Center in Dayton from 1985 to 1988, and she spearheaded the development of the Dayton Regional Tissue Bank, which is the second largest tissue bank in the country. Dr. Conley has a 3-year contract with St. Luke's Hospital in Manila in the Philippines as their accreditation director. With her credentials, Cheryl was able to provide guidance to the lab, enabling St. Luke's Hospital to attain U.S. accreditation, the only lab in the Eastern Hemisphere that has that distinction. With all her experience, Dr. Conley is a regular judge for Carroll High School Science Days. We are happy you're here today. Let us welcome Dr. Cheryl Conley.
Faculty, alumni, and students of Carroll High School, it is a distinct honor and privilege to have been nominated into the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame, and I'm very humbled to be here. Being the oldest of all the inductees, I can share some very special memories about the early days of Carroll High School, having been in the 5th graduating class of 1969. I was in the original Carroll High School marching band. We called ourselves the Marching Postage Stamp because we were only 18 members strong at that time. My instrument was the clarinet and tenor saxophone, while my identical twin, Carroll, played the trombone. We sported hand-me-down uniforms from Centerville High School, but hey, CHS is CHS, right? And we were so proud. We did not have a stadium in those days, so our home games were played at Beaver Creek High School. I distinctly remember our debut at Beaver Creek so many, many years ago, and it was our home game. We were playing at Beaver Creek, and we were playing Beaver Creek, first game of the season. Our band had a fairly limited repertoire, including our fight song, Grand Old Flag, right? And we got through that number just fine. The next number was On Wisconsin, which we played with enthusiasm. Unfortunately, we found out after the fact that that was Beaver Creek's fight song, and they were cheering us they were cheering us. It turns out it was their fight song. Oh, the memories. I have a story about Mr. Sens. I intended to be a language or music major until I was greatly influenced by my sophomore biology teacher, Mr. Sens, fresh graduate from University of Dayton. It was his first year teaching. At that time, we had segregated classrooms, so we had all girls classes and all boys classes. And Mr. Sens was teaching our all-girl class a comparative anatomy course. And it was our task to dissect assorted and sundry biological specimens. Our first assignment was to dissect a pickled worm. One of the girls in our class started crying uncontrollably as she could not possibly bring herself to do this. Mr. Sens was starting to lose control of this class. He strutted up to the front of the class, arms folded, and said, "Girls, I have to hand it to you. UD never prepared me for this situation." Any suggestions? I think we all found humor in this, and we went about the dissections without any more tears. The faculty here at Carroll taught me to realize my dream and inspired me to become a scientist, a science nerd, I might add. As described previously, I got my Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology and Master's in Clinical Lab Sciences. This passion for science allowed me to explore many different job opportunities. I loved transfusion medicine and worked as a staff tech in a hospital setting. I became the technical director for Community Blood Center, which provided blood and components to area hospitals. In my postdoc years, as mentioned before, I was a NASA fellow, and we were exploring immune responses to weightlessness in the first space rats, the first rats that went up. And I can add a little bit of a story there too, because there was a sequence of, they had the space rats in one part of the spacecraft, and then they had to use pressurized systems to move from one area of the spacecraft to the other. And one of the astronauts did something out of sequence, and they ended up with rat bedding and feces floating around in the compartment because they didn't do it correctly. With wonderful help from Community Blood Center, we were able to establish Community Tissue Services, as mentioned before, the second largest tissue bank in the United States. This service provides bone, skin, and cornea transplantable tissues for patients in need. I taught in the Clinical Lab Sciences program at UK, UD, and then became the program director for Clinical Lab Sciences program at Wright State. I was the laboratory director for GeneScreen, one of the largest DNA testing labs in the US, doing DNA testing for immigration and relationship testing. During my time there, we were able to develop SNP technology, that single nucleotide polymorphism technology, and our lab was the first lab to become accredited for this type of DNA testing. I was honored to be invited to New York City in the aftermath of 9/11 to see if this technology would be useful to identify human remains. This has been such an amazing journey. I always encourage my students to explore options and see where their talents will take them. I believe that I received this mindset from my father and from Carroll High School. My journey is still taking me places. I'm the lab director for St. Luke's, as mentioned before, the DNA testing lab there in the Philippines, and they do immigration DNA testing there. There will be incredible advances that you will see in your lifetime. We have already seen lab-on-a-chip, genetic personalized medicine, gene splicing to eliminate congenital and other diseases, and other amazing advances in human biology. It will be up to you, the new scientists in this next generation, to pursue these fields. I must admit I am envious to not be part of this movement, but I encourage each and every one of you to seek your dreams and enjoy this ride. You will be taking a wonderful journey. Thank you.
Michael Netherton, class of 1970. His student ambassador is Abigail Shahady. Please stand and be recognized. Mike is an expert in the field of alcoholism and drug dependency treatment. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Northbound Treatment Services, headquartered in Newport Beach, California. Mike has served in various executive positions at the Betty Ford Center for over 20 years. Mike's passion for treatment is founded upon the belief that all individuals can recover from alcoholism. He cites his strong spiritual values, faith-based priorities, love of family, the ability to find and maintain balance in his personal life as the keys to his professional success. It's a great honor to have Michael Netherton with us today. Let's give Mike a Carroll welcome.
Right now, all I'm hearing is Jim Spurl say to me, Netherton, if you had spent more time in preparation, you know. And It is an honor to be back here. And I'm humbled, and I want to congratulate my fellow inductees this morning. You know, I wasn't sure what I was going to feel when I walked up the front steps of this wonderful institution, but it's pretty much what I'm feeling now. It's a sense of pride, a sense that it feels good to be home. And I'm looking out here and I feel a little bit better about the future right now than I did maybe yesterday. But I will tell you that when I walked in here the first time as a freshman, walking into homeroom 304 with a great friend of mine who's also a member of this august organization. His name is Bob Brewster, and Bob was a physician. And I don't think there were two goofier looking guys walking into that homeroom than Bob and myself, you know. And one of the things I'm aware of today is that neither time nor distance diminishes the experiences in our life. And I had a wonderful experience at Carroll High School for 4 years. And several of those happened in this very room, you know. I was a freshman, and I was here for the altar game, and I watched Terry Jones right over there in that corner hit a baseline jumper at the end of the game, and we beat Altar High School for the first time in our history, you know. And it was incredible, and the place went crazy. You know, and as now I look at all the banners and achievements and accomplishments, it's just wonderful to be here. And I need to tell you that frequently when I stand on a platform in front of a podium, in front of a group of people such yourselves, I will frequently introduce myself as that my name is Mike and I'm an alcoholic, and I am. And you know, that acknowledgement nearly 40 years ago shaped my professional career. And I would be less than authentic, and if I stood here this morning and didn't acknowledge that. Because when I found the courage to begin to address that part of my life, God revealed to me a path that I could now take that would give me purpose and would give me a passion for what I now do. All I've done in my professional career, I've been a healthcare administrator. And I spent 10 years at Good Samaritan Hospital helping to shape a program there called Samaritan Hall. And from there I went to the Betty Ford Center. And I will tell you, as a kid from Xenia, Ohio, spending 20 years working alongside a former First Lady of the United States and her husband and her family was a tremendous honor. And really, though, the seeds of what I was able to accomplish and what I continue to pursue today in my career, those seeds were established here at Carroll High School. And you know, the three greatest teachers I have and have had in my life are my three daughters. And I have learned so much from them. And I was leaving the hotel this morning, and my wife and I flew in from California last night. And she said, "Are you going to wear a tie?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'm wearing a tie at Carroll High School. Are you kidding me?" And I walk in here, and I'm standing out in the lobby, and Abby comes up and introduces herself, and I look at Abby and I say, "Is it Casual Friday?" And she said, "No, that's," I said, "What with the shorts?" And she said, "That's pretty much what we wear." And I said, "Not in my day, kid," you know, and it was a tie every day. And there was never a thought not to come with a tie, you know, unless you wanted to experience the consequences of thinking you could get away without wearing a tie at Carroll High School. So, hey, I applaud whoever made the change. I think it's great. You know, I really do. But as I thought about what I wanted to share with you, and as I pulled in here this morning and I saw that big sign on the side of the building said, "Shaping the Future." That's what each and every one of you have the opportunity to do, is to shape our future. One of my great passions is today, and I am part of a wonderful organization in California where we do provide great alcoholism treatment services and address the issues today that are so significant in this country with addiction. And I will tell you, there are a lot of us in this room this morning that know someone who's probably recovering from addiction or maybe experiencing the challenges as a direct result of that. And really what I want to do and what I have really committed myself to do and my company to do is just to address those specific issues in the lives of young adults. You are our future. You will shape who we become and who we are. And one of the things I'm well aware of that Carroll High School did for me that I could not do for myself, Carroll High School held me to a higher standard. Carroll High School had expectations for me that I didn't have for myself. And they provided the framework by which I could begin to shape values, even though I lost sight of those for a period of time, that would reemerge at the exact moment in time that I needed them. I was empowered here. I was challenged here. I think the first time I actually addressed the student body of Carroll High School, Bob Brewster and I were running for the sophomore class president. Bob won. But I remember standing here terrified, but was given encouragement just to open your mouth, to begin to hear yourself speak, to share what you want to share. That happened here. I was treated with great respect and dignity here. People wanted the best for me. And as I walk back into this room this morning, into this gymnasium, and I look at all of you, my hope for each and every one of you today is that as the result of this experience here, the years that you will spend here, is that you will be able to tap into that strength that you all have and begin to really look at what is going to be my purpose. What I'm really engaged in today around the country is to really teach and mentor the next generation of healthcare leaders that will operate and work diligently in the segment of healthcare where I have made a career, and that's in addiction treatment. And as a result of that, I have greater hope today. I have greater hope today. Alcoholism and drug dependency are tremendous societal issues. We just need to be aware of that. It's a primary disease, and I know we have people here who look at the disease components from various facets. It's a generational disease. But it's been the purpose, it's my purpose. I have found that purpose. And I found that purpose through what I was taught here at Carroll High School. This was a great experience for me. But for me, I had to remove myself for a period of time to realize how important and how significant my time at Carroll High School really was. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, would always talk about the fact you can't connect the dots looking forward. You've got to connect the dots looking back. And you look back at those experiences in your life that shaped who you now are, and you connect those dots. Carroll High School is one of those really significant dots for me in my life. So I stand here today before you as a patriot, as an alumni of Carroll High School. I stand here with great humility. I wish my mom was here. She wouldn't believe it, you know. And I have great hope for each and every one of you. And if I can leave you with one comment, with one thought, is that I believe that embedded in the soul of each and every one of us is an intuition and a heart that will lead us in the direction that we need to go if, in fact, we are prepared to listen and listen to that small voice in each and every one of us. And it will never steer you wrong. Thank you.
Mike Osgood, class of 1978. His ambassador is Quinn Retzloff. He was an amazing person, so energetic, so committed. Knock him down and he would just get back up and try another solution. Mike Osgood's co-worker, Pam Miller Howard, said these words at Mike's funeral in 2014. Mike was 54 years old. Mike was in my anthropology class the first year I taught at Carroll High School. Those same words could have been used to describe Mike then. He was always energetic, positive, and eager to learn. One of Mike's greatest accomplishments was establishing Tech Edge Works here locally. This is a cooperative among the research departments of the Air Force Base, the University of Dayton, Wright State University that does amazing research and development work. Today, we have a fellow co-worker from Tech Edge Works to speak to you about his good friend, Mike Osgood. Please join me in welcoming Rick Scudder.
Principal Sobleski, Mrs. Weitz, distinguished alumni committee, faculty, distinguished alumni themselves, Osgood family, friends, and most importantly, students of Carroll High School. I am deeply honored to be here today to talk about my buddy and colleague, Mike Osgood. God's honest truth, I had no idea Mike was a Carroll grad until after he passed away. All those years of having strolled the hallways during countless band practices, basketball games, parents' nights, I looked up at those distinguished alumni plaques, probably read every one, and then it came to me. It was entirely fitting and proper to reconnect the man and his extraordinary life to his alma mater. So it was also my honor to nominate Mike Osgood for this very, very important honor which will be bestowed upon him this week. I don't know if Mike was a straight A student. Mr. Hofer maybe shed a little light on that, Mom and Dad. I don't know how Mike felt about his time at Carroll. I sense he was a restless and ambitious young man who was ready to pursue his dreams and adventures the moment he walked across the stage, and that he did. The first thing we know about Mike is that he was brought up right by his wonderful parents, Doug and Ann Osgood. The second thing we know is he received a fine education here at Carroll, which further underpinned the morals, values, and ethics by which he lived his life. And one thing we all know for sure from these photos is that he really liked tan sport coats. Seriously, Mike's spectacular string of achievements over a relatively short span of years proves that getting an education is one thing. What you do with it is another. We're going to see if this works. Ta-da. Okay. Mr. Hofler's introduction touched on many of Mike's life pursuits, and I won't recatalog them here, his pursuits and avocations. He was seemingly good at everything and constantly driven by curiosity, and as Mr. Hofler said, had boundless energy. Certainly for Mike, his most important and enduring job was being a devoted husband and father to his lovely wife, Becky, and his two amazing sons, Michael and Andrew. One of Mike's other crowning achievements was the TechEdge Works Research and Development Facility. Our merry band of engineers, computer geeks, motorheads, and craftsmen wouldn't have a roof over our heads if it wasn't for Mike. We have since tackled some of the toughest technical challenges the Department of Defense can throw at any research and development lab. Back in 2007, when the Wright Brothers Institute was challenged by the Air Force Research Lab with creating and equipping an off-base 24/7 tech wonderland, they needed to find one guy who understood everything about commercial property, building codes, masonry, roofing, steelwork, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, insulation, sheetrock, carpentry, physical security, and data routing and switching. In the end, there was only one guy, Mike Osgood, who understood all that stuff. After scouring every vacant property in the city and setting his sights on 105 Janney Road, Mike and his fellow 1978 classmate Dan Kappeler set to work transforming a derelict food storage warehouse into a 21st century state-of-the-art lab. Despite many setbacks and probably long hours with Danny at the shop, Becky, Mike and Dan persevered 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, for 7 months to get it done. Empty and cavernous at the grand opening, TechEdge Works is now overflowing with high-tech projects. That's how successful the concept and the facility are. We were pleased to host the Distinguished Alumni Committee for a tour, and I sensed that they were impressed with the house that Mike built. Now, after having spun straw into gold, Mike was one of our principal engineers. The final project that he designed and built, which is called LEAP, is today deployed for overseas combat operations. His very good work is enabling our customers to find very bad people. All of this and more at TechEdge for many decades to come. Okay, students, listen up. At every assembly or graduation, some geezer like me will presume to give you some advice. No different. America desperately needs more people like Mike Osgood. You know what, excuse me, you know what I want you to do? I want you to be like Mike. Be like Mike. How does one be like Mike? Well, here are 10 quick tips for your consideration. Number one, if you commit to something, never quit. When you promise a Nevada farmer that his 10,000 acres of soybeans will be harvested before the autumn rains rot the crop, you get it done. Even though you're already exhausted from 18 hours in the cab of your harvester and need 4 more hours to sharpen your cutters and change fan belts in the pre-dawn darkness, you do it. Why? Because you said you would. When you declare that TechEdge will be open by September, you do it, even if you and Danny have to flex to 16 hours days instead of 12 hours a day. Mike's word was his bond. So should be yours. Okay, number 2, see number 1 above. Never, ever quit. When Mike was faced with the toughest battle of his life, lung cancer, he fought back like hell. Everything was at stake. Despite the pain and misery and the ordeals of chemo, he rarely missed a day of work. He learned everything he could about this insidious disease and sought every means to defeat it. Up until the moment that the Lord came to take him home, he never, ever quit. So long as you fight, there is still hope of winning the battle. If you quit, there is no hope. Never quit. Make the most of every day. Don't waste time. Cram as much living and doing into every 24 hours. That results in the maximum amount of fun and satisfaction every 24 hours. And as Ben Franklin wisely stated, and Mike Osgood backed him up, time is the stuff that life is made of. Number 4, learn to work with your hands. Mike recognized that America's reputation for craftsmanship is rapidly slipping. Okay, very few high schools these days still have shop classes per se. But how about putting down that smartphone and picking up a saw, a wrench, a paintbrush, a welding torch, a screwdriver? Create, make, fix, renovate. Work with your hands. Get the vision thing. This is sight. I can see you. Vision is something entirely different. Mike had the vision thing. See a neighborhood in decline with families moving out, and envision a revitalized, rehabilitated neighborhood with families moving back in. Mike made that happen at St. Anne's Hill. See a ramshackle warehouse and envision a world-class R&D lab. Mike made that happen at Tech Edge Works. The Tech Edge Works revolution is now being copied in many other major metropolitan areas. People come to see what Mike accomplished, and they want the same for their cities. Number 6, get your priorities straight. When you're as busy as Mike Osgood, this is a very, very important thing. So every day, you got to tackle the hardest problems first, like a firefighter in a burning building. Aim your hose at the highest and hottest flames. There will be plenty of time later on for the small stuff. Over a lifetime, find out what you really, really want to do, what your passion is, as early as you can in life, and pursue it with all your heart, spirit, and energy. Number 7, serve your community and nation. Okay, apart from the Civil Air Patrol, Mike never wore a uniform that I know of, but he did more for the national defense than many folks we know in uniform. Always build up, never tear down, and volunteer for things which serve everyone rather than an exclusive few. Number 8, seize opportunity. These days, it may be more who you know rather than what you know. These are difficult times, and fewer opportunities for young folks are available. But be prepared, be vigilant, be confident. Number 9, take on challenge. Be brave. Push your limits. Push your boundaries. Don't say why, say why not. Don't live in fear of failure. Success teaches us nothing. Failure is how we learn everything. Half of the prototypes Mike and I developed were abysmal failures, but what we learned led to eventual success. Love. Not the noun, the verb. Love. Mike loved working on old cars. He loved to fly. He loved hanging out with us knuckleheads at the Monster Garage after a hard day's work. It's all well and good. But Mike had a higher and more important loves, and in the proper priority. He loved his community. He loved his country. He loved his family, and he loved his God. Okay, that's how to be like Mike. Let's recap quickly. Never quit. Never ever quit. Make the most of every day. Learn to work with your hands. Get the vision thing. Get your priorities straight. Serve your community and nation. Seize opportunity. Take on challenge. And love. Got it? Got it. Very good. Okay. Best 2 words of any speech. In closing, Scripture tells us that the Lord has prepared a place for us in heaven. Mike is already there, getting a head start on setting up the lab and the machine shop. Back here at Carroll, future students and parents will look up at those plaques on the wall and see our classmate, our brother, and our friend, Mike, in the fold. On behalf of the Osgood family and all his colleagues at Tech Edge, we are grateful that the committee has chosen to recognize his lifetime of achievement and proud to have served alongside him in his service to the community and the nation. Although Mike is not here in person, he's certainly here in spirit. So, ladies and gentlemen, how about a huge patriot round of applause for Carroll High School's newest distinguished alumnus, Mr. Michael P. Osgood.
Before I would continue, I want to recognize Jim Fleischer. He's our chairman of the committee. Stand up. You did a great job. Very important. Alan Thurman, class of 1978. His student ambassador is Nick Riley. Please stand and be recognized. Alan received a Bachelor of Science degree with high honors from the University of Notre Dame in 1982. a medical degree from the University of Cincinnati, and a general surgery residency at the University of Arizona Tucson Hospital. Dr. Thurman is certified by the American Board of Surgery, American Medical Association, the Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Medical Society, and is an American College of Surgeons Fellow. From 1991 to 1996, he was on active duty with the United States Air Force Medical Corps. He received the Miami Valley Physicians Excellence Award in 2004 and was nominated in 2001, 2010, and 2016. Alan volunteers along with his Notre Dame classmates to provide medical care for the people of Honduras. He is also a past president of the Dayton Surgical Society. Alan's caring manner with each individual person has given him a reputation of love and respect. But before all the medical honors and accomplishments, we want to remember Alan was a member of a prestigious team. The Carroll High School soccer team of 1977 that played in a record-setting 25 overtimes against Centerville High School. Let's give Dr. Alan Thurman a great welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hofler. It's really an honor to be here today. I know what you're thinking, though. All right, this guy's number 4. There's still a couple more to go, but I'll try and be brief. Carroll really has been family. Seeing some of these old pictures brings back some great memories. We had pretty good hair back in the 70s, didn't we? It's hard to believe that it's, I think, 41 years ago that I was in this room as president of the sophomore class. And as president of the sophomore class, you get to oversee the hanging of the class banner. At least that's the way it was then. And so after the banner is raised, I got to lead my classmates in a rousing cheer. You know, give me an S, give me an O, O. And afterwards, one of my friends came over and said, Al, that was really cool, but you misspelled sophomore. So anyway, I apologize if I get a little nervous up talking here. I don't think I realized how lucky I was at the time to be a part of the Carroll family. But you'll see, as our school matures and alumni go everywhere, you hear about these unbelievable accomplishments. It truly is humbling to be included in this group. I started in 1974 here and have been lucky enough to come back as my sons, Kevin and Mark, were in the class of 2009 and 2011. It's great to connect with families who have stayed in the area, and kids have come here too. And in my work as a physician and surgeon, it's always a real pleasure to take care of people that are connected to the Carroll family. But in 1974, starting here, Carroll was a great place for me. My dad had died just 3 years earlier. I was the oldest of 5 kids. And to have the mentors, to be accepted, to really be challenged in my schoolwork was really meant a lot to me. I too remember the shirt and tie dress code, though in our class at the time you'd make this huge knot so that your tie was only about 3 inches long. I don't know if Mr. Hofler remembers some of those. But you were, you know, at least the letter of the law, you had your tie on. I'm sorry Mr. Sens couldn't be here today. He was truly an early inspiration for me. And I told my sons, you know, while he was principal, while they were here, they didn't get to experience him as a teacher, and he was just a master. And this was in the days of something called chalk and chalkboards. I don't think we know what that is today. But anyway, he would have chalk, and he'd be writing notes a million miles an hour on the chalkboard, and then he'd pause for a minute, and he'd put his finger up against his nose, and the rest of the day he'd have chalk on his nose, and he had chalk on the pockets of his tweed coat. It was great memories. You know, as you go through your time here, you try and focus on what your talents are. When I finished, I was pretty good in math and science, so I went to college starting out in an engineering program. But that little inner voice that you hear in your head, and maybe it's the Holy Spirit, kind of changed me and said, well, maybe medicine is the way to go. And so listen to the voice as you go through, and don't be afraid to kind of prayerfully reflect on what you want to do with the rest of your life. You really have an opportunity here that maybe is hard to appreciate while you're here, but as you get out at Carroll and you realize how special it is here and how special the family is, and sure, you're going to have the academic preparation and you're going to do well and have lots of opportunities, but remember the family, remember the good times that are here. Eve, are you there? So still have a family member here in Eve Thorner, my nurse, or my niece, excuse me. I think just one final thing, I guess I have to confess, as a surgeon, I sometimes get the opportunity to take care of Alter High School students. And I have a little guilty pleasure just as they're falling asleep saying, now remember, I went to Carroll, and you're trusting your life to me. Thank you.
Matt Joseph, class of 1990. His student ambassador is Carl Kiesel. Please stand and be recognized. Matt is a senior logistic consultant for Serco Incorporated at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He's considered an expert in the field of automatic identification technology. Matt is also a Dayton City Commissioner, elected to his first four-year term in 2003 and 3 times since. Matt is dedicated to making Dayton a great place to live and a welcoming place to do business. He has focused on making neighborhoods safer, more attractive, and ensuring that residents receive the best possible basic services. Matt is very active in the community, currently serving on the boards of the Dayton Sister City Committee, the Dayton Peace Accords Committee, and the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. Let's give it up for Commissioner Matt Joseph.
Good morning. Oh, that was pretty weak. Good morning. That's better. I only have one page. Just want to prove it here. It's not going to be too long. But at first, I want to thank everybody. Thank you for your attention. Thank you to Mr. Sobleski, to the Alumni Association, to the people who chose me for this honor. It's a little bit intimidating, and it's very humbling to be along with such a group of people who've done such great things. Just the two that I know the best, Mr. Sens, who was my chemistry teacher here, and then my principal at the same time, and Lieutenant Colonel Middleton, who you'll hear from in just a moment. They're amazing, and to be in their company, real American heroes. And so it's humbling to be here, but I'm very happy to be here and be able to speak with you. So I won't talk long. You've heard some good stories. You've gotten some good advice. But I want to make 3 points. And I don't know if you all still are taught the 5-sentence creative outline. You guys know that? Was it pounded into your head at every opportunity? Yes. No. Mr. Hemmert, who was my teacher here for a long time, a lot of years, I used to argue with him all the time. He used to tell me there was a subject sentence, then there were 3 points, and then a conclusion. And I used to fight cats and dogs with him to get a 4th point in there, or maybe a 5th, or maybe 2 one time, and he would never bite. Never. He said, just cram 2 together to make 1 and come out with 3. So I have 3 points today. First, there's a point to what they're teaching you here. Second, don't limit yourself when you think about your future. You've heard that a couple times from these excellent speakers. And 3, learning comes in a lot of different ways. Take advantage of chances that you have. So, first point, there's a point to what they're doing here. There really is. I can look back now after 25 years, and things that didn't make sense at the time or hurt at the time, that makes a lot more sense as you look at it from where you're standing here. So now I understand why they required me to take a foreign language. Or why I had to take economics when I wanted to be a writer or a teacher, or why they cut me from the baseball team. It was also Mr. Hemmert, actually. But all these things happened to me, and years later, I understand they helped me out later. Because I spoke Spanish pretty well, I got a chance in college to go live in Chile for a while and do some missionary work, which turned my entire life around and pushed me into politics. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. And that was thanks to Senora Long and Senora Gomez. And then the economics. I took economics with Mr. Rakel, and I learned a lot. I didn't expect that I'd ever really use it. But it turns out here I am. I'm a city commissioner responsible for a million dollar budget. And on top of that, it just is more of a practical, in a practical fashion. When I did go into more political stuff, I went to grad school for international affairs and diplomacy. I had to take an economics class. And I hadn't had economics since Mr. Rakel. I had no economics in undergrad. But just that year with him, I think it was just a semester, was enough that I was able to grab hold and make it through grad school. I didn't get all A's in grad school, but I made it through. And finally, getting cut from the baseball team. Now, about sports. If you would have told me when I was sitting here in your seats, in your shoes, that I'd be part of a Hall of Fame, I would have hoped and dreamed it would be the Carroll Athletic Hall of Fame. That was my goal. I've spent a lot of time in this gym. Coach Hyder's up here. He made me run a lot in this gym, a lot of suicides. And baseball was the same way. I always expected I'd be pitching for the Reds, but it was not to happen. So I got cut from baseball, one of the worst days of my life. But a couple days later, I went out and ran track. I loved it. I ran club track at UD. I turned out to be a decent hurdler. I even had my name out here in the hallway with a couple hurdles records for, I don't know, Mrs. Sobleski, Ms. Tibbs, how long was it? Maybe 20 minutes. It didn't last very long. Neither of them did. But in any case, there's a reason to what they're doing here. It'll make sense more as you go along, but you can trust that they have your best interest in mind here, the teachers and the staff and the folks that are helping you. So go along with it. If you have any doubts, it's okay. Second point, don't limit yourself when you think about the future. I mean, the first reason is obvious. You're looking at these great people who've done wonderful things with the same exact background and opportunities that you have right now. You have great school. You're surrounded by great peers and teachers. You have good programs, great resources. Coming from this, you have a gigantic advantage over almost everybody else in the entire world. You get that? I mean, really, you're in the top 1% of the top 1% of people who have this opportunity in the entire world. So take advantage of it. If you have a chance to try something new, do something outside of your comfort zone. But you have the chances that nobody else has. When you're participating in these things along the same line, and here you can see that I squished 2 points together to make 1 point in the 5-sentence creative outline. Take advantage of chances to practice leadership. I was really lucky to go to UD for my undergrad degree when I came out of here, and they gave me chances to lead in Habitat for Humanity and St. Vincent de Paul Society and that sort of thing. And I think that was probably better preparation for me for my job as a commissioner than the 4 years of academics. That doesn't mean you shouldn't study, but it means take advantage of the opportunities you get, especially in leadership. As you know, there's a desperate need for thoughtful, faithful, intelligent, reasonable, patriotic leadership in this country. And not just in government, in the church, in any number of organizations, any number of businesses, there's a real need for leadership. So go out there and try and practice. You're here. There are plenty of clubs to get involved with. There are plenty of things to do, whether that's leadership on your team or I remember when I was a senior, I joined Muse Machine. And as a basketball player, it was not a normal thing to do. People kind of wondered what I was doing. But I wanted to try it, and I'm glad I did. It was interesting, and it opened horizons. And finally, one bonus comment. I wish Mr. Hemmer was here. He's not here, is he? I wish he was here, because I'm squeezing Maury in here. Don't let the political situation scare you. Don't be afraid of getting into politics. How many of you right now would consider someday running for office? Raise your hand if you would. How many? Good. All right, keep your hands up for a minute. How many of you are thinking about doing something else involved in public service? Raise your hands. Public service. All right, that's pretty good. All right, and what I'm telling you is to repeat what I said a moment ago, the country is in real need of thoughtful, faithful leadership. And frankly, I'm pretty young for a politician. I'm going to be around in 15 years, in 20 years, and 18 years when you all start running for office, the folks that had your hands up. So I'm looking for allies. Together we can make more changes, right? Together we can do the right thing. Together we can look out for the entire country and not just looking out for ourselves, looking out for our group, looking out for our special interests. We know that we have a greater responsibility because we've been given more. So someday, in 15 or 20 years, I'm looking forward to having you as allies. So, I hope you got something out of these 3 points. It really is good to be back here. It's an honor to be given this award, to be up on the wall for something other than my very brief hurdling records. And I want to thank you. Thank you for your attention and wish you good luck. Thank you all.
Lieutenant Colonel Charles Middleton, class of 1994. His student ambassador is Jacob Riemann. Please stand and be recognized. Charlie Middleton is a summa cum laude graduate from Princeton with a bachelor's degree in engineering, with a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering, in operations research, and a certificate in management systems. Charlie is also an F-16 fighter pilot with over 2,000 flight hours as a pilot in command of a military craft. He is also a combat veteran, having served in Operation Southern Watch in Saudi Arabia and Iraq in 2002, and Operation Iraqi Freedom in Iraq 2003 and 2005. Charlie is a test pilot, having graduated as a distinguished graduate of the United States Naval Test Pilot School in 2009, and receiving various test pilot awards, such as Test Pilot of the Year in his squadron in Florida, and he was the top graduate of his F-16 initial training class in Arizona. Charlie, we're very glad to have you back at Carroll today. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Hofler, for the kind introduction. Thank you, everyone, for the warm welcome back here at Carroll. I'm definitely honored to be here today, along with these 6 amazing alumni joining into this distinguished hall. Being back at Carroll is great. The school looks fantastic. It's actually looks a lot better than when I was here, so that's awesome. I have so many awesome memories here. When I was here, the stalls down in the boys' locker room didn't even have any doors on them, so they still don't? Man! Some things never change, I guess, right? All right, so fighter pilots are not generally known to be the humblest of people. There's a joke that goes, how do you know you're halfway through a date with a fighter pilot? Well, he says, so enough about me, now let's talk about flying. So I suppose I don't need to try to be humble, so let me impress you just for a minute. I fly the F-16 Fighting Falcon, which is the most accomplished combat aircraft in the world today. The F-16 flies up to 1,500 miles an hour, Mach 2, which is twice the speed of sound. I've shot the most advanced weaponry in existence off the wings of my F-16. Missiles that can hit an aircraft target or a ground target 50 to 250 miles away with unbelievable precision. I've flown over the American South, the Midwest, the Western deserts, flown over the deep wilderness beauty of Alaska, the mountains of Colorado and California. I've flown across the Atlantic Ocean by myself in only a one-seat airplane for 11 hours straight without stopping, hooking up to a 200,000-pound tanker aircraft to refuel in flight along the way. I've flown over the gorgeous islands of the Mediterranean Sea, the barren sands of the Arabian Desert. I've crossed the Red Sea at 25,000 feet above the earth. I've flown low over castles in the German and French countryside. I've landed in a snowstorm in Japan. I've flown combat defensive patrols over the White House in Washington, D.C. I've flown a flyby at an NFL football game. I've flown in air shows in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I've flown in combat, and I was airborne over Baghdad on the very first morning of the Iraq War in 2003, before any other aircraft in the entire coalition. And more recently, I've graduated from the Naval Test Pilot School, which is home to heroes and astronauts. And I've flown flight tests on prototype aircraft, weapons, radars, and other technology you can only dream of. You guys impressed yet? Okay, so how does a kid from Beaver Creek, Ohio, go and do all that? Let me tell you. Carroll High School prepared me in so many ways for future success. Biology class, which I actually didn't really like that much, gave me great knowledge that helped me during aerospace physiology training when I was learning to become a pilot, understanding the body processes and how we function as human beings. Chemistry taught me ideas about fuel, combustion, and fluid dynamics that greatly affect aerodynamics and propulsion, which was extremely valuable at test pilot school. Physics, of course, is essential and taught me lots about acceleration, force, gravity, electromagnetic waves, ideas all critical to lift, weight, thrust, drag, radar, lasers. It's essential stuff. And math, of course. Believe it or not, dogfighting against enemy aircraft is all about geometry, range, angles, rates of closure and separation, time and distance, and the use of three-dimensional space. I had Mr. Hofler as my history teacher, and history, geography, economics, and government are all fantastic for understanding where America fits in the world today, what the military's role is in the larger political landscape of government and nations, and how to understand and cooperate with or oppose foreign peoples and cultures. English and communication are absolutely required for leading a small team of pilots or a large team of engineers, for writing test reports or strategic planning documents. And finally, religion. Religion, to me, is the one thing I got from Carroll that some of my fellow pilots may not have had in their education. To be taught and understand the why of conflict between nations, to understand what makes a just war, and to comprehend the ultimate goals of protecting and defending human life here at home and around the world. So is this great foundation of education that you get here at Carroll really enough to do everything I described before? No, there's a lot more required. It's a lot of hard work. But let me give you one more piece of advice, as so many great pieces of advice you've already gotten from the distinguished alumni here today. Try very hard to figure out not just what you want to do and accomplish, and not just how to accomplish those things, but also why you want to go and do those things. Let me give you one example out of many examples from my own life. At the end of college, believe it or not, most people think a pilot, you probably dreamed this from the time you were 5, and it was your only goal and that's how you got there. That is not true for me. I was undecided about whether I wanted to go for pilot training in the Air Force or become an engineer in the Air Force instead. I listened to the advice of an old colonel who was an instructor at my university and a former pilot, and he encouraged me to take a risk, take a chance, and see how good a pilot I could be. He described to me what it felt like to fly, described the skills and desires that he saw in me that might make a great pilot. It was great advice, and I'm really glad I listened. So my advice to you today is seek out the opinions and the guidance of experienced people that you respect, even if they're outside your close circle of family and friends, your teachers and guidance counselors. And then be willing to take an informed risk to jump when you see an opportunity to go do interesting things, as long as you know why going and doing those things might be right for you. My final thought, America is the greatest nation in history due to our culture, our capitalist system, our government and our Constitution, and our diverse, immigrant-descended people. And America recognizes that the respect and value for individual human life and freedoms is the highest goal. These same values, I feel, are derived from the Catholic teachings anchored in a Carroll education. Carroll gave me a foundation of knowledge, awareness, and confidence in how to succeed in service to America, and more importantly, why that service matters. Trust that Carroll will also give you the foundation to achieve any destiny. It's up to you to take that informed risk to succeed. Thank you, Carroll. May God bless us. Today's a great day. Be a patriot.
Thank you, Mr. Hofler, and all of our distinguished alumni for your words today. They're all very impressive people, but I will say this very quick story. Charlie is actually a very dear friend of mine. He was in my wedding, and he met my father-in-law the night before the wedding, and my father-in-law was clearly very impressed, obviously, with such a war hero that Charlie was. And so at the wedding, instead of introducing his new son-in-law to all of his friends, he kept saying, "Hey, come over here. You got to meet Charlie. Come meet Charlie. He's this great guy." Oh, I don't know. Who's my son-in-law again? So be careful, I guess, who you invite to your wedding. So with that, let us, juniors and seniors, take us back to class. Thank you.